We'll start off with the prayer. Heavenly Father, thank you for this beautiful day today. Bless each and every one of us as we open up our hearts and connect together in understanding and love and unity and harmony and balance. Bless each and every one of our families, all the way through our children and their children. Help us to learn how to forgive and to be children in our hearts, and to be able to release all this burden that we carry around with us. We thank you so much for these classes, and we thank you so much for everyone that attends and even listens to the YouTube channel. Amen.
Amen. I'll share the song.
Tanga diwa ne kunyo ni watawi. Tanga diwa ne kunyo ni watawi. Ne wai ni ugwe tage wakahwe nuni. Ne ka ni kuha suma.
Rodney, can you turn it up a little bit?
Ne andi do hwe nuni. Ne yugo ni kula tanakan hora do slana to wat kawe china de to wat lenyo. Tanga diwa eoni nu na to wakela de ne chinu ni ahun chata do. Ne wai la welo hikwa ni staka hage. Ne yuki hawi dio kishnya. Oni agwego sua na hota de sungwawi. Chinu ahun chata do agwego na ne dietino horunyo. Oni nena gaili ni okuala le chinu tadia ta kwa radiwa rasta juata hunchade. Oni chikara kwalenyo. Oni jisto kwalenyo. Nega dia kwegu chinichilo kwatako kanuhala do satawa. Tanga diwa uri ho kwegu enyo de do wata so chinole de do shi tage. Enyo de do ani haflo nana sokwa diso. Nega diwa with the wat kawe kanuhala do chi. Kunyo ni do tage. Eka dinyo negwa libu. In respect to our home, the earth, we say thank you to the earth for everything that she gives to us, nourishing us every day. We give thanks to all the water in the world, everything within that water. We give thanks to all the grass that lives on the land. We give thanks to all the berries, the fruits, the medicines. We give thanks to the animals that keep the forest clean. We give thanks to all the trees for the different uses that they give to us. Our shelters, the fires that we make in the winter time, keeping us warm. We give thanks to the birds who sing their beautiful songs. We give thanks to the four winds. We give thanks to the grandfathers, the ones that brings the rain. And we give thanks to our oldest brother, the sun, who shines his light every day. We give thanks to our oldest grandmother, the moon, for she is the one that has been charged with the duty to make sure that life has a continuance. She is the one that watches over all the movements of the water and also the water within us. We give thanks to the stars, her helper, and we give a special thanksgiving to the four sacred beings that watch over the human family. Sometimes we notice them when we are traveling in dangerous places. They are the ones that come to our minds and say, go around, don't go any further. So that's what we're there for, to protect us, steer us away from danger. And so that's what we do. We start right from the earth and we climb a ladder right to the special place beyond the heavens where there's a special spirit that lives there. The spirit that made it possible for us to be here and everything that we have mentioned. And so with the collectedness of our minds and hearts, we send a special thanksgiving and greeting to the great spirit of us all.
All yours, Sheldon.
Okay, I don't know if y'all were having trouble hearing what was being said, but I couldn't hear it on my side. So if y'all would like to look that up, it was prayers by Native Americans, and it was a prayer for being thankful, so that you can actually hear what they were saying in the prayer. That's actually what we're going to be talking about today is being thankful. And we're going to go back to the very starting of our class when we were talking about the two wolves, the positive and the negative. Because I feel like, you know, we've been talking for many classes now about how to recognize both sides, the egoic side and the conscious side, right? So y'all should be pretty familiar now with those parts of yourself so that you can recognize them. So we're going to move up a little bit in frequency pattern and understanding about this. You can't have one without the other. That's one of the universal laws, you know, the law of duality. So if you try to push one of them away, you're going to have resistance because they have to work together. You can't just take one out of the piece of the puzzle and think it's going to be work. So what I'm saying is you can't always be positive and think that you're not going to have negative involved in it, because it doesn't work that way. They both work together. They're always there because it's energy. One of the biggest things that we do, and the reason why I started these classes was for you to, and everyone that watches them could start realizing and being able to see the difference within inside yourself. You know, the negative and the positive, which will bring balance to you once you actually accept and understand and practice for yourself your own balance, because nobody can bring that to you except for yourself, through your understanding and through actually walking it out. But when you get to an understanding within inside yourself, you will actually realize that the bad wolf and the good wolf are all one and the same. That there's no duality. But because we live on this earthly plane, there is duality. That's part of the lessons that we have to learn. And the reason why we suffer, and you will learn this for yourself. This isn't me just saying this, you know, you will learn this by going through your experiences that you go through. But the reason why we suffer and we have so much pain in our life is because we're resisting giving up that part of ourselves in the knowing that this is the way it is, this is what it is, and accepting it and letting it flow through us. But when something bad happens to us, we respond to it. When something good happens to it, we respond to it, right? That's just how our body reacts to energy. When you begin to understand it better, when the bad does come, because it will always come, if you do not resist it and realize that it is there and will always be there, it is how you perceive it, how you hold it within your heart, will be the vibration and the frequency pattern that can change how much suffering you go through. If you resist it, you're going to go through a lot of suffering. You're going to go through a lot of pain. But when you become to the point where you can understand that this is something that you can't change, that this is life, this is how it is, and give yourself forgiveness for feeling like that and just let it flow through you, you will be able to hold a frequency pattern that can change everybody around you, even yourself, because it is what it is. You know, and sometimes that's hard to for us to grasp in a human body, that it is just what it is. Can you change it? Sometimes you can. Sometimes you can change the energy. Sometimes you can't. And on those days, those are the ones that we get hit the hardest with, because we try to change it by being more positive, by trying to raise our frequency. But the real true understanding in it is to stop resisting it and understand that it's there and that it will also pass, because it's energy. Energy is always moving. So whatever's happening to you will not stay with you, but for the period of time that the energy is flowing through on that vibrational level. Now, I don't know if y'all can truly understand what I'm saying, but I hope you will try to practice it this week to see, because a lot of it is about resistance in your own ego self or your human self, you know, resisting the flow of energy when it's coming in, whether it be good or bad. When you resist it, that's part of it's part of like not having forgiveness in your heart on a human thought process, and just realizing it is. This is it. This is where we're at. This is what's coming in. How am I going to perceive it, accept it, receive it? And guess what? All of us like to suffer for some reason. You know, I'm one of the good ones. Like I said, my whole life I played the victim very well. And when you choose to be the victim, then you choose to have the harder lessons to go through, that have the suffering, more of the challenging stuff happen. But it's so that you can learn. It's so that you can become more aware of your own self, not nobody else, but just yourself. And when that happens, you're able to help other people that are doing the same thing later down the road. Once you learn what it is that has caused you so much suffering. Now, each one of us have things that go on in our lives with other people, family members, that cause friction in our lives. Sometimes it goes against our belief system on how we feel it should be, which brings in the expectation and judgment. We all do it. Because we all, in our own way, have a certain way that we want everything to be. That's part of what I'm talking about. Everything has already been set up to how it's supposed to be already. Before we wake up in the morning, Creator's already had it all set up for us. And whatever comes in your pathway, if you resist it, guess what? You're going to suffer because you're not allowing the energy to flow through. When you can recognize it and go, oh, this is how it's going to be today. Well, today it's going to rain. Okay, well, Mother Earth needs some water today. You know, if you perceive and receive that information in the proper way, you won't be grouchy because it's raining outside. And just because you wanted to go do something outside and you're not able to because it's raining, you won't be so grumpy and have those emotions if you realize that it is what it is. It just is. That's part of the understanding of not resisting and accepting everything for what it is. The acceptance. You know, if you wake up and you're in pain, which a lot of us do, you know, we wake up every day and have to look in the mirror and see a new wrinkle on our face. And if you like me, do you like seeing that new wrinkle? I know I don't. But so, you know, either you accept that new wrinkle or you go, oh, let me get some cream to put on my face. I don't want that to happen no more. Well, guess what you're doing? You're resisting, you know, what is. The fact is, we're all going to get old. The fact is, we're all going to pass over and transition over. Okay, that's a known fact. We can't get out of that. But how you accept that, that's how you're going to get through it a lot easier. So I want you to, you know, I'm hoping that this class will bring you through to a better understanding of the two wolves that are inside of you. You know, once you start recognizing the negative and positive, it takes you on this journey that you can never go back from. You can only go back to that story and start again. You know, when you find yourself in a position that you caught yourself in the ego, or let's just say you caught yourself being too positive, because you can be too positive too, and you will find out that you're not balanced when you're like that. That actually, like I said, happened to me, and that's part of the reason why I had my heart attack. And it was to show me, you know, some of the parts of myself that I wasn't even allowing to be or recognize, but they were still there. I just didn't recognize it, didn't understand it. But you are what you are, you know, so why resist it? Be who you are, be your true, authentic self. You know, are you going to have a bad day? Yeah, well, yes. Are you going to have good days? Well, yes. But you truly, truly will have a better day if you do not put an expectation to how it should be for you, and let it come in as it always comes in from Creator. Now I know that leaves you going, what? I don't understand. Because it's really is it's a higher vibrational thinking process where you take yourself and your humanness out of it and just look at the energy instead of the labels. You know, because each one of us wake up in the morning, and I'm going to use this morning as an example. How did you feel this morning? How many of y'all were hurting or feeling pain this morning? I was. I'm getting old. I have arthritis. Now, do I claim to have it? I cancel that thought, because you can bring all that stuff to you too, because that is your mindset. So what I do now when I wake up and I'm in pain, instead of resisting it, because automatically your human body will resist it before you even think about it. You have resistance. That's where you haven't forgiven yourself for being human, for having a human existence, for having thoughts, for having feelings. And we've been programmed, like I said, we've been programmed a long time to react, to not actually perceive and receive what is actually taking place in you. So yes, I got up in pain this morning, but instead of resisting it, I said, okay, well, today I'm going to have to do a little bit, I'm going to have to go a little bit slower today. There'll be things that I won't be able to do that I would like to do, but I'm allowing the energy to flow through me instead of resist it. Because guess what? When you're hurting really bad and your body starts resisting it, guess what? It makes you suffer that much more. You'll be in a big crying because you're hurting so bad. But it's because you're resisting that flow of energy coming through you. And as we look at it, when you're in pain, that's a negative vibration, right? Well, I want y'all to, really think about this, because there's really no such thing as positive and negative. But because we're in a human body, we have to learn how to decipher this language that's coming through us. And so we have to put sometimes labels on things to get people to look at it where they can recognize it in themselves. And that's where the two wolf concept come through. The story of the two wolves was the starting of recognizing your true self and how the energy runs in your body, male and female, and how it reacts in your body through thoughts, through feelings. And like I said, once we all get to understand that, you're going to rise above that into this type of consciousness that I'm talking about today, where you're just going to be, you're human, but you're in full awareness that you're in a human body and you're a great being in this human body. And what comes with that is great forgiveness for all the resistance that you have placed on yourself in your lifetime through the stuff that has been taught to you. Whether it come from school, competing against one another. That's one of the biggest things in the world is we learn that we have to compete to even feel like we're somebody. But that is not true. Each and every one of us is somebody. We're a child of Creator. And Creator lives in each one of us. And we're having a beautiful experience here on earth. But a lot of us don't recognize it because we've labeled it in a negative way, which has caused us a lot of suffering and pain. Now, am I saying suffering and pain will go away when you reach this understanding? No, it won't, because we live in duality on this plane of existence. It's one of the laws. But what will happen, and we're going to have a big lesson on this that I'm trying to put together, is your masculine energy is actually your warrior side of yourself. And we talked about this on the earlier lesson, but we're really going to get into this. Your masculine self and your feminine self have to come together in a dance within inside you and unite together like you would with a partner. Each one of us wants to have a relationship, right? You're married, you're single, but you're looking for that mate. You also have that within inside yourself. That is your male and female side. And they have to work together, not against each other. And until you come to the understanding of what these lessons bring forth, it's to teach your male and your female side how to have a relationship with one another and come together as one unit, because it's one. It's one whole thing. And when that comes together and that understanding, that's when you will realize that there's really no such thing as negative and positive. It's all a label that was placed on it for us to learn. And when you can rise above into the energy pattern where there's no labels, and you can just feel the energy and understand the energy, then your days will start becoming more peaceful, and you can have a lot of peace, and there can be a lot of chaos going around you, and you can be standing in like a peaceful zone. And that is the consciousness that will come into you through this awareness, because you can hold that frequency pattern. And if you can hold it, what it will do for others can also change the way they react to things. And you don't even have to say anything to them. But if they get in your energy field, they will feel that energy, and it'll help shift them into a better light, out of the suffering. How many of y'all that are on here right now know, and this includes yourself, somebody that is suffering over something? It could be a child, it could be pain in your body, it could be you fighting with your own consciousness, not trusting how you feel about yourself. This is all of what we go through every day to become more knowledgeable about this energy pattern that goes through us. And trust me, I don't know it all. I will never claim to know it all, because I don't. And I suffer greatly because I'm hard-headed. I'm very hard-headed. And I will bang my head up against the wall several times before I say, "Ooh, I don't like this and I don't want to do it this way." But that's my ego itself. And so I've learned to calm that part of myself down, and I've learned to come to peace with many things. And that's what you'll learn when you rise above this vibration of negative and positive and all that. You will learn to become the peace within the chaos. And people will ask you how you do that. And the ones that ask you how you do that, at that time, you couldn't even tell them the answer of how you do it, because they would not understand. Because it's not about going, "Oh, look at me, this is what I'm doing." It's about your true self, being your authentic self and sharing it with others in unconditional love and compassion for their walk and where they're at. Okay, and I want to talk a little bit about my brother. I have a brother that has very many gifts, very gifted, but he's also been in alcohol and drugs all his life, and that's what he's chose. He will not choose to get out of it. He's had many times to change, but for him, that's comfortable spot for him. And that was hard for me to come into acceptance, okay, and accepting him for who he is and not trying to change him anymore. But because I did try to change him, because I loved him and I wanted to see him not suffer so bad, okay? But because I was trying to help change him, I was suffering more than he was because he wouldn't change. Can y'all see the concept in that? And because he wouldn't change, I suffered more than he did because I was wanting him to change instead of accepting it for what it is. This is what it is, and not having a label on it, not having a judgment on it, but finding peace within it that it's okay. You know, it's okay that he's like that. It's very amazing when you can come to that within inside yourself, within that understanding, because you don't have to teach anybody anything. You just have to be. You don't have to go out there and say, oh, look at me, look what I've done. This is, you know, I have all these people following me. It's not about none of that. It's about how you balance yourself for Creator, for Mother Earth. And when you can bring in that vibration, you're going to share that vibration with others, whether they understand the energy that's coming in or not. Because it's about being, and it's about being true to yourself. And let me tell you, it takes a lot of forgiveness. A lot of forgiveness, not where you're forgiving other people. It's where you're forgiving yourself for the way you were, your belief system was. And tearing it down and becoming your authentic self and knowing that it's okay. It's all a part of the plan, of the big plan of Creator. You know, do you have to change it? You don't have to change a thing other than understanding with inside yourself what you can do for yourself to help you not suffer as much as you're in this lifetime going through this experience. Because let me tell you, it can be an adventure or it can be pain and suffering. Now, for the ones that know me really good, and you know, I can pick up the phone and say, hey, what you doing? I call them up sometimes and say, hey, you want to go on an adventure with me? And some of my friends have got those calls. And guess what? We take off on an adventure. And it actually becomes an adventure because we don't, the only label we put on it is it's going to be an adventure, you know, because I don't know what's going to happen, but you know, we're going to be here. This is the intention of why we're going there, but we don't add anything to it, and we just let it unfold as Creator places it in front of us, and it becomes a great adventure. It always has, and brings great memories that you can look back on. So life is an adventure. For me, it's an adventure. And as I wake up every day, I really try hard every day. And let me tell you, being in a human body is not easy. This is not an easy task that Creator gave us all to do. Because when you get up every day, you are bombarded before you get up. Like I said, your ego has already made out your whole day for you. and how it's going to be, how you're going to feel, unless you balance yourself and get into that state of mind. You know, that's why it's so important to come to get up in the morning when the sun's rising. You know, Native Americans do that because that represents a whole brand new day. Okay. If it's a new day, then everything that happened to you yesterday that caused you problems, caused you pain, caused you suffering, that's done and over with. Okay, the sun just come up, it's a brand new day. So why are you bringing all that garbage with you? What makes you bring it to that day, to the new day? It's because we hold on to it. We're not supposed to hold on to none of that at all. We're supposed to let it go. That was in the past. You can't go back. You cannot go back and change the past. The only thing you can change is what happens in the future. You know, are you going to be more joyful? Or are you going to be more loving? Or are you going to be more kindness? And guess what? You got to give that to yourself first before you can give it to anybody else. And guess what? It's like I said, the 3 threes. You have the thought, the action, and then you're going to have the reaction to it. So when you get up in the morning in that new day, it's an adventure. And you let Creator give you the day instead of you piling on all the baggage from yesterday or all the things that you feel you have to get done this minute, this day. It has to be done just like this. Well, who told you it had to be done just like that? I really want y'all to think about it. Where did it come from? Did it come from spirit or did it come from your ego itself? You know, are you really truly allowing spirit to come in and you be the hollow bone and understanding, you know, what life is really about? Because none of us really know. There's a lot of us that think we know. And I'm sure people think I feel like that, but I don't, because I don't know. I will tell you right now, I don't know from one day to the next. But I give it to Creator and I ask Creator to show me every day. And when I get up in the morning, I thank Him for the new day and everything that has happened the day before. I really, really try to leave it behind me. Sometimes you can't in a human body, you know, because we have all these emotions of assumption, judgment. You know, if somebody hurts your feelings, then you're going to hold a grudge, right? That's the vines that I tell you about that we have to pull out of our garden. We got to root them out because they grow every day. But you will find out that once you start weeding out this garden of yours and you get to the root of the problem and you start planting the good roots, they're going to spread out too. That if you address it immediately when it happens, instead of try to throw it underneath the rug and say, I'll come back to that later, you're going to get through it a lot easier and a lot faster. But as a human being, especially when we know it's going to hurt another person or it's going to hurt ourselves, we will like to shove it, you know, in a closet or underneath the rug for a little bit because we don't want to address it. And what happens there is I don't even know who I was talking to the other day about this, because I had this conversation with somebody, but it's like filling up a teapot and the teapot's fixing to boil over because you just scooted it underneath the rug because you didn't want to address it. But if you take in the morning time that new day, if it brings it up that day, you should address it that day. Not wait 2 months down the road to address it, because guess what? That pot's gonna overflow and it's gonna bring steam with it, especially if you're holding the anger or judgment. So I guess what I'm trying, to talk about today is just being honest with yourself and allowing each day to be that new day for you. And each day choose a proper course for you instead of holding grudges, judgment, labels, punishment, shame. We all do it. And make it a brand new day. Every day, make a brand new day. Don't bring all this old stuff into your new day, because if you bring the old stuff, guess what? You're gonna get the old feelings, the old stuff, and it's gonna continue in a cycle pattern, which we talk about in our lessons too. This is part of the energy. You feed that energy, it's gonna continue to go until there's no more energy left in it, and then the energy changes into a different pattern. But you gotta, realize too that you're feeding this energy pattern. So, be aware. What are you feeding? That's why it goes back to the story of the two wolves. The more you feed negative, the more negative you're gonna get. The same as the more you feed positive, the more positive you get. But guess what? You have to have a balance too. You can't just be positive without the negative. It doesn't work. They're a unit. They work together as a whole. Back to your masculine energy within you. When you come into this understanding where you can rise above all of these labels and everything, you're going to find a great relationship with inside yourself that becomes whole. And when that wholeness comes, that's where the self-love, that's when you truly, truly love yourself, and you find peace and comfort. Because what you've actually done is the feminine side of yourself took up the sword because the ego was fighting it. And it's been fighting the ego all this time. But what will happen is your feminine side will give the sword back to the warrior, which is your ego. And he will stand there and be your warrior, because y'all have united into a relationship that is whole. And he will fight your battles for you. And he'll fight with you, but not against you. And that's where the true healing comes. It's not about going out here in humanity and fighting wars, and even though that's part of the patterns we have to go through that have been created, because it is all in a circle. But to relinquish that is to put that forgiveness within inside yourself and forgive yourself for all the stuff, that you have no control over. The only thing you have control over is how you react to it. But when you can do that, it brings such a peace and harmony to you, and guess what? You're not going to stay in that peace and harmony forever either, because energy moves. So it's a balancing act. But the more you do it, the more better you get at it. It's like riding a bicycle. The more you get to understand about it. And then you can help others if you choose to, or you can just be the light for others and hold that vibration, which a lot of people do. How many people have ever walked into a room and just felt another person's love? They're really, truly unconditional love. And didn't even speak to the person, but you could feel it come radiating off that person. I've been in rooms like that before. And that's where somebody else chose to be that vibration, you know, and they're sharing it with everybody without anybody even realizing it. Without it, without saying, "Oh, look at me, I'm holding this high vibration. Come over here, and it'll just heal you," you know. Or I have great wisdom. Come over here and let me talk to you. They don't have to do that because they took all of that out of the way, and it is just creator. It's the day, and it's a beautiful day. And that's where we need to, I'm going to take that you out of it. That's where I want to be. That's where I'm striving to get. Have I got there? I don't think so. I think I still have a lot of work to do. But that's okay too, because that's how I've been learning. But like I tell you, every day I get up and when the sun rises, I do realize it's a new day, and I try to put everything that has happened in the day before that away and not even, you know, address it unless there's something in it that has to be addressed. And that goes back to what I said about sweeping it underneath the rug. If you sweep it underneath the rug on yesterday, you better bring it out from underneath that rug and address it today so it doesn't you don't keep taking that baggage with you into the new day. Address it, be done with it, and it's going to bring you a lot more peace, happiness, because you've addressed it when it happened instead of letting it pile up on you. It's a lot to take in. So I hope y'all, I hope this will help y'all as it's helped me to realize these things. And I want you to look at your day. If you got up this morning and you didn't get up with the sun, when this class is over with, I want you to go out there and look at the sun and tell them thank you. And let go of all that baggage that you've been carrying around and say, this is my new day today. Thank you. And see, and just keep a record of it and see what happens. I'd like to hear your stories next week, because I bet you there will be some. How many of y'all would like to participate in that? Would you like to try it for a couple of days and see what Creator does for you, or what changes that you see, that you recognize, because you left all that baggage behind? Because that's your homework for next week, and we will discuss it. Because I think you're going to find, if you do this, you're going to have a lot of ah moments. Last night I had an ah moment, and I'll share it with you. I had a sister that passed away when she was 30 years old. Now, I didn't get to know my sister that well, but I did get to know her before she passed away. And I loved her very, very much. And I was sitting here last night, saying prayers. And I had not said prayers for her for a long time because she's been crossed over. But she popped into my mind. And and so I said a prayer for her, that her journey over there was loving and kind to her. And as soon as I did this, all this stuff come up in me, and it really like amazed me, because this is part of the holding on to stuff. I'd swept this underneath the rug a long, long time ago. She's been gone since she's 30. I'm 60. She was my oldest sister. She was a year older than me. So 30 years. 30 years of this was swept underneath the rug. And I realized that I had never told her I was sorry for being mean to her when she was a kid. I pushed her down the slide, broke her arm because I wanted to slide down and she was climbing up the slide, and she asked me really nicely to wait until she got up the slide, and I told her no, and I slid down the slide, and of course she fell off the slide and broke her arm. And I was probably 6, 7 years old when that happened. I was young. But at that time, all these emotions came up, and I realized that I had been holding on to all this stuff for 30 years about my sister. So last night, I just decided, I'm letting go of this. And I asked for her forgiveness, and I asked for my own forgiveness for holding on to it. But I realized, I never got new clothes when I was a kid. This was back in the 60s. My mama was a single parent with 5 kids. So, as I look back on it now, I don't even know what minimum wage was back then. It was probably $1. But I never got new clothes. My sister always got the new clothes. And then I got the hand-me-downs. I got her clothes after she outgrew them, they became mine. And I really held a grudge and didn't even realize it until this happened to me, that I had held that grudge all these years. And I thought my mama loved her more than me because she got new clothes and I got hand-me-downs. But really, that wasn't the case. That was how I perceived it. But that really wasn't the case. The case was my mama was a single mom trying to raise us, and she did the best she could, and she probably couldn't afford to buy me new clothes. And so I, realizing that now at the age of 60 is pretty powerful. But I did a lot of soul searching last night when I was doing this prayer, and I released a lot of things that I had, kept about my sister and about myself on how I was as a child, because I had a lot of resentment and I carried a lot of anger and, lots of stuff that I didn't even realize I had swept underneath the rug. So I released that bag of stuff I'd been carrying around for 30 years last night. And I woke up this morning thanking Creator that I could release that bag. And I no longer had to carry it anymore. And it's a great feeling. And I know that my sister forgives me, and I forgive myself for being that way. And this is the stuff that I'm talking about. We all have this type of baggage. These are also what I call the skeletons in the closet. Take them out. Shake the dust off of them. Look at it and go, okay, I'm going to address this. And then guess what? No more skeleton in the closet. No more water in your teapot that's going to boil over because that water is not going to start steaming anymore. It's just going to be calm in there where you can stand in peace and harmony with yourself. It's really a lot to think about. And I just want to tell y'all that I'm so thankful that each one of you is here to be a part of my journey as I'm a part of yours. Because you don't know how much I appreciate that we have made this class where we can talk to one another. Because each one of us has great insight. It just doesn't come from one person. We are all a unit. And when we learn that we're supposed to be together, love one another, help one another, it's going to become a beautiful place to live. But you must first live it in your heart. You must first live it in your mind, because you've got to fix yourself first. You've got to love yourself first. Your good and your bad and the uglies. Because none of us are perfect. We never will be. But guess what? You can get up in the morning time and you can thank Creator for the new day. And you don't have to carry any of that with you unless you choose to. And you can start your day off like a little child skipping down the road, holding a yellow balloon with a big smiley face on it. Because you're happy and you're in peace. And you're going to try to bring that to other people. Just because you're in that space, you can take that frequency to other people without even telling them that you have that. You know, you don't have to say, look at me, this is what I got. You just go about your business, bring it. And guess what? It's going to make people smile. It's going to make people feel good. And boy, does time fly. So that's the lesson for today. And I would like to hear comments on it. So we'll open it up for questions, because it's not all about me. It's about all of us. We're all part of this. And you know, if my thoughts are not in the proper aspect, you know, I'd like to hear that, because I'm working on myself. It's just like the you thing, you know. When that lady told me that all she heard was me going, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to, well, she was correct. So I looked at that and I went, wow, I do that without realizing it. So now that I realize it, I try, you know, I'm trying really hard not to do the you thing. Because sometimes it still slips out. Because, you know, I'm a human. But I want that feedback, because that's what helps me grow. And I love each and every one of you. And Julie, it's so nice to see you today, because we have missed you greatly. And does anybody have anything that they would like to add to what we've been talking about?
Shahawen, thank you for this morning's class. I just wanted to say that it's a wonderful reminder, and it's very freeing to say, leave yesterday behind, leave all that, start anew. It's such a freeing reminder. Sometimes we need to hear it.
Well, you know, for me, it's hard as a human because we forget many things. So for me, I take little sticky notes and I'll stick them, you know, on the mirror or something. And if it helps you, make a sticky note to go outside and talk to Creator, you know, as the sun's coming up, and to release that stuff until it becomes a pattern in you. Because disciplining yourself to walk in a manner of awareness it does take time to get there, because you're always going back and forth in the energy. So little sticky notes help.
Okay, got it. Will do. Thank you.
Okay, Pam.
Good morning, everyone. I just
Good
wanted to
morning.
say, I look forward every week to this class, and I really appreciate you, Shahwin, for all of your dedication to us and for making us part of your life. I do really appreciate it. I just wanted you to know that. And I also wanted to ask you if you would elaborate a little bit more on the masculine side. I have a long history of having abusive men in my life, or angry men, a lot of angry men. And my feminine side has like way overcompensated, I think. And I just kind of want to have an idea of where balance is, I'm seeing a little more balance in my son, who is, a young man who's really dealing a lot better with dealing with issues in a very good way without losing his temper, but I've seen so much of the losing the temper and abuse. I wonder if you could just kind of elaborate on what that's really supposed to be like.
I'm really not quite for sure what you're asking.
I guess I just don't, and it's me. In my experience in life, I haven't had many men who weren't angry. It seems to be a pattern in my life who used anger to control, who used anger to make people listen, to make people do what they want them to do. And it's a pattern that's in my family. I mean, my grandson, who's 17 this next month, tends to do the same thing, and I do too, because I have a tendency to be angry, mostly usually because I'm hurting, physically, and I'm having to deal with stuff when I'm hurting, and I get irritable,
I
I
understand
guess.
that.
Yeah. So what I'm trying to say is, how do you break that pattern of just being using that anger to get what you want,
Okay, well, I call that clearing the DNA line. And you must first heal yourself first. So when you're still carrying all of that baggage, okay, there's a difference. Like, I was abused really bad too, and I was abused by guys to the point where I didn't even want to even talk to a male. And that was all baggage that I carried with me that I had to learn to release and heal from me, so that I could have a better relationship with the male energy. Okay. And I want you to really think about this hard with inside yourself. For my own self, I realized that because I hated, and I mean, I literally hated men. Not that I was gay or anything like that. I just did not like the control and the abuse that I had seen through my life. And I just didn't want that around me. So I wouldn't have anything to do with them. But that was my own doing. It wasn't anybody else's. The awareness came in because it happened to me. But I chose in a judgment, and also to hold on to that pattern by never releasing it and forgiving myself and forgiving the other person for doing that to me. So I carried it a long time in my life as a pattern. And what happens when you do that is, if you don't clear that pattern off your DNA, especially if it's on your DNA line, the next generation will have to clear it off, or we'll end up walking that same pattern, cycle pattern, and you will see it. The more you become aware and awareness of what's going on, you will start seeing these cycle patterns and everything. And the way to break it off is, first you've got to release all your baggage from it. Because you can't help nobody else. If the pattern's already in your children and they're experiencing it, before you can even step in to help them, you have to clear it from yourself and forgive yourself, and try to hold that vibrational energy for their healing, and have good talks about it with them so that they can realize they need to break the pattern within inside themselves, because it's a generational thing. That's just the same way with alcoholism. That's why it runs so hard in family lines, and it can either come in from the grandfather and the father's side, or it can come in from your mother's side. To find out which DNA line, it can come in from both. But you need to sit down and write it out. Who in my family did this happen to? Did your mother go through the same thing?
I don't, I really don't know whether she did or not. I don't think so. I knew my grandfather on my mother's side. And I don't think that he was generally abusive. I don't remember him being physically abusive in any way. I mean, he was preoccupied with himself and his own thing, and really wasn't too involved. But that's just different. I think it's been brought in on my husband's line. His dad was very violent and threatening and yelling. And so my husband has picked up on that, and it's kind of been passing through him down, although my son is doing very well at overcoming that. My 17-year-old, he's got ADD and some major problems with dealing with issues, so his reaction has been push away and frustration because of his ADD. He can't take a lot of noise and some things like that. That's part of his physical makeup, my father died when I was very, 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 very young, and she remarried a man who was very violent and abusive. So it's coming from, not bloodline, but obviously from other men who have come into the.
Yeah. So to help you is you sit down and write that all out, and write out who all was involved in it, and look at it, and whatever emotion rises up in you at that time, or whatever it triggers, because it can trigger some hard trauma too.
Mm-hmm.
Try to release it. You're welcome to call me, where we can discuss this, further privately. But also know that if this is very painful for you, you don't
Mm-hmm.
want to do it by yourself. You want to have somebody, your friend or somebody, to be with you to help, give you comfort and stuff, especially if it's going to trigger some heavy duty trauma in you.
Yeah, it does. It does. There was some very heavy duty trauma.
Yeah, because if not, you're just going to be in suffering. Like I was talking today, you're going to be in that suffering and pain part, and you can release it in so much easier form when you're healing yourself, when you have when you have somebody there helping you. That's why we have lodges and stuff like that, because you can go to a lodge, you know, and, if you know anybody that has a lodge and you feel comfortable with them, I would ask for a private lodge and do a sweat and release it that way, because you'll release a lot when you do that.
See, it's not just, I mean, it's not been my husband as much as it really comes from my stepfather. That's really where a lot of that fear and of my own reaction. I take responsibility for my conduct in my relationships in my home. You know, it's not just my husband's fault, it's my fault too, you know. But also, but it does all come back. It comes from my childhood. It comes from things that happened to me as a child, mostly with my stepfather. That's where it all comes in. So yeah, I understand and I appreciate your help that way. Thank you.
Yes, and like I said, you can call me and we can discuss more on it. It's really hard when you're releasing stuff in that manner, especially if the cycle pattern has gotten into your children, like Elizabeth can tell you, because she's known me for a long time. But when I lived in New Mexico, the only reason why I went to New Mexico to help my mother was to start breaking the cycle patterns that was in the family unit of these patterns that I was recognized. And good gosh, I've been breaking them for over 20 years. So it's not like it happens overnight, you know, because you'll break one and you'll see, like I said, a vine with another label that got attached to that brings up an emotion within you, and you have to take all of that and get it out of your mind. You know, you got to pull it out of your consciousness, because that's part of the baggage that you carry around with you, you know, so you can get rid of it. But
Yep.
that the biggest thing that I've learned is, if you really want to get down to the root and pull it all out, the whole vine, without having to go through each emotional part, is the ownership, is the root. Because if you own that emotion, if you have thoughts on that emotion, because we don't own anything. That's the root. You can pull it out, and then you won't have to go through all those emotions with it, unless it is, okay, another root grew from it in a different direction, which caused you to have great trauma. So it's like a kudzu vine, you know, and if anybody knows what a kudzu vine is, that thing grows and there's no way to get rid of it unless you get to the root and pull it out. So that's a lot.
I'd like to share a little bit.
Yes, please do.
One thing that I recognized, and it was pointed out to me, that if I break generational patterns, then my children don't have to go through that. And I've been fighting how my father raised me, how he was, you know, he had a grade 4 education, and he was a redneck, the big beard and the raccoon tail on his cowboy hat, and I'm the toughest mother effer, and, you know, this big macho egoic. And I've spent most of my adult life trying to unlearn those behaviors, and what really helped with me was the time I spent in Arizona with the group of women, 11 months, and the time I spent in Lillooet up with the 25 women that were doing the women's gathering. And what I've learned is the feminine divine needs to awaken the masculine divine, because the feminine divine is connected to spirit. You're innately connected. Men are not. We need to drop to our knees in front of the feminine and say, please teach me. Please show me, because my egoic, but it balances too. We have the warrior side that protects the feminine side. But until we learn that balance, then we're overpowering. And then it's look at the shape of the world. So for me, I also appreciate so very much Isha Hawin and sharing. But for me, it's the feminine divine awakens the masculine divine and their true divinity, and shows us how to lead in a powerful way that's not overbearing, that's not, abusive, getting emotional. So just wanted to share that.
That was great. I love what you shared with us, because see, I see that in the same in the light manner. But see, females too have their male side. Their egoic side can be so strong and controlling and mean. And until we can understand it and bring it under control, there's really no way for us to help the men, because we'll use what me and Pam were talking about. Well, what we experienced. There's a lot of women on the humanitarian side that have experienced so much abuse from men that causes that imbalance. But I will tell you this: the balance of the male and the female energy is coming back together. That is what has broke the sacred hoop that the Native Americans talk about. And when this balance and understanding comes in, what it is that we're trying to balance, and people start really getting it, the men and the women will come together. Some of that has already been happening in the past couple of years, where the women, the Native women, some of the grandmothers and everything have done ceremony, with the men, like a forgiveness ceremony for what the masculine energy did to the women. If you want to take it on a religious side to the Bible part, it said that women are the life givers. We give life. The men are the seed. They seed the life. We give the life. But guess what? If we work together in that unit, in that wholeness together, there wouldn't be any life. So that unity has to come in whole and, be there. So this great separation in the hoop that was created really truly has to be mended back, with the understanding that it is all in a unity of love and understanding. The men protect the women. They don't abuse the women. They're not mean to the women. But so does the women have to not be mean to the men, because that pattern has been engraved in us. And so it's these patterns that have to be weeded out of our gardens with great understanding and compassion and love for one another. And commitment that we're not going to hurt each other anymore, that we're going to be there for each other, and support one another on how we feel. I'm going to put Leo and Colleen on the spot. You see, they're out there in the wilderness, you see. They're out there on the property, and I haven't talked too much about this, but we're gonna build a community on this property where Leo and them's at. For people to come and be able to commune with one another and get healed, have some schooling. So that's where they're at today, and I just wanted to see how it was over there and if they're enjoying themselves.
I'm not sure they can unmute themselves.
Oh, you know what? They might not can. See, I caught him off guard. I'm sorry, Leo. He might not be able to unmute himself. It's okay, Leo. We still love you. It's okay. We understand. We can do sign language. We'll put a big heart there for you. We love you. We're glad you can be with us out on the land. Bring that energy. Look, I love each and every one of y'all, and I hope y'all have a beautiful day. I hope y'all like the class and what we talked about. And I'm going to turn it over to Rodney to say the closing prayer. And next week, we will meet back here again. And I hope each and every one of y'all have a beautiful rest of your week. And get up in the morning time with the sun and leave your baggage if you can. And start the day anew. Much love to all of y'all.
All right, I'll pray. Father Sky, Mother Earth, all our ancestors, all our relatives, we thank you so very much for this most sacred circle that you've allowed us to be part of. We thank you for the teachings that you've channeled through Shahawin. We thank you for the wisdom, and we ask that these plant deep seeds within our hearts and help us to really understand that the earth creates duality, that spirit does not. And for us not to resist, but just to let things flow. And for us to be the light that the people are seeking. Help us to glow with your spirit and your love and your guidance. Please give us those few moments of peace before we have emotions involved, where you talk gently to us and guide us in a good way. Help us to make those right decisions every day. Help us to realize that the choices are always ours, and help us to understand that we are both positive and negative, but to not own those, to just let them move along like a beautiful cloud floating by. Help us to hold space for ourselves and our brothers and sisters. We ask that you watch over us during this week, that you guide us in a good way, that you watch over us in every way, and that you protect us in every way, and that we walk in a way that is pleasing in your sight. We love you, we thank you, and with that, we close the circle and say, Aho.
Aho. Well, see y'all next week. Much love to all of y'all.